But that said, there still was one final arcade outing for Pac-Man in the magical year of, let me pull up my notes here as I do this because I don't want to mess it up, 2011. And that was, wait for it. Oh. Wait a minute. Wait. Oh, right. Foolish me. It's an arcade game. Pac-Man Battle Royale. And for those that doubt it, this was the first Battle Royale. This was the first Battle Royale. In the late 2000s, the Namco we once knew sadly would become merged with another company, Bandai, and together they would form a new company known as Bandai Namco. This is the Namco we know as today, and I'll be referring from this point on as Bandai Namco. But clearly, the interests of way back when were not the same as the interests that would soon take over, and that includes the Pac-Man series, because in the early 2010s, 2011 to be more specifically, we would have unveiled the first Western reboots of the Pac-Man series. It's not very good! Believe it or not, but at the time of this recording, people have actually taken to Twitter to talk about how much they hated this reboot era of Pac-Man. This was known as Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures, which would have several different forms of media associated with it, including a TV series, some video games, and the overall design of Pac-Man being rebooted to boot. This design is hated by many fans, including myself. It's very similar to what we saw with Pac-Man 2: The New Adventures, but was made to be a little more modern, which includes of course modern boots and having just this more streamlined design. Yeah, I don't like it either, I just really don't like it. The TV series would follow Pac-Man in his adventures in Pacopolis, along with his friends Spiral and Silly, these of course being puns on a circle of course. But through shenanigans that occur, he unleashes the Ghost Realm, where Betrayus, the leader of the Ghost Gangs, unleashes havoc onto Pacopolis. So he's recruited by President Spiros and Sir C, and even gets some help from the original ghosts, Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde, to restore peace to Pacopolis through the daily antics. All I'm gonna say is that it was tame for what it was. I don't think it was a good TV series. I watched it when it first released. Do I remember most of it? Parts of it. I don't think it's that good of a TV show, honestly. Is there worse adaptations to TV? Yeah, I'm willing to bet. I mean, the Mega Man one was pretty bad, and that came out later after Ghostly Adventures. But it's just not good. It really wasn't good. There was also attempts to reboot the Pac-Man World Series using this Ghostly Adventures form. Thank God that did not work, but I don't think the games were any better, honestly. I don't think they were. I will say though that there was one good game that came out of this Ghostly Adventures form, and that was a tie-in as part of Pac-Man Galaga Dimensions, Pac-Man Tilt. If you have a 3DS and you ever come across it, check out that game. I think it's well worth your time. So, Pac-Man was rebooted. But there was one good thing that came out of this announcement of this rebooted era, and that would be one last outing in the arcade. As a matter of fact, this is one that by today's standards has aged pretty good, considering that it almost created a whole genre onto itself, the Battle Royale. That's right, this predates Fortnite Battle Royale, baby! And this is Pac-Man Battle Royale. I actually remember back when they announced this at E3, that it would be at select locations. I actually went out of my way to find a Buffalo Wild Wings that had this in person to play. That's how bad I wanted to try it out back when it was announced. And was it any good? Well, honestly, this is the one game I can't do a lot of justice for here in this playthrough, because Pac-Man Battle Royale was meant to be played with more than one person, up to 4 people as a matter of fact. And since I don't have anyone here to help me out with this one, this gameplay session will only feature the computer, so I do apologize in advance. So let me talk a little more about this game as we try to play it, I suppose. This is Pac-Man Battle Royale. So I do have things to say about Pac-Man Museum Plus, but I'm going to save it for the last episode because I feel like this is the one game especially that I need to bring it up, but it's still worth pointing out regardless. That said, let's play Pac-Man Battle Royale. So remember, this was an arcade game released in the early 2010s. So it's crazy to think that in this time, there was still Pac-Man in the arcades. Maybe not every arcade, but it was still there. Because it's 4 players, and unfortunately we only have one of me, we are going to be playing with the computer. So, if I push the start, by default I am Yellow Pac-Man. Let's wait for the clock to play out. This is a game that is best played when you have more than one person, because the whole gimmick of Pac-Man Battle Royale is playing against the other players. Eat power pellets, and eat the other Pac-Man. Simple as that. But because it's just me, we're going to see, yep, there's the CPU. It plays on a newer version of the Pac-Man Championship Edition hardware. Maybe not hardware, but it's definitely got the Championship Edition style. And the way to go about it, of course, means to eat the pellets or to reshuffle the stage in order to spawn stuff like the power pellets. And when you do, you gotta be the first one to grab the power pellet in order to chomp the other Pac-Man. If you do that, then it leaves you in a vulnerable state. If you get the pellet, of course, though, you are safe until it expires, but you're just gonna bump into the other player. What you could do, though, is bump them into another ghost as well. Like if I take this player and I try to bump him into the ghost, that will kill him effectively too. So there is different ways of strategy you could go about this game and playing through it. But it is still Pac-Man. Yep, just like that, he bumped you right into the ghost. Cheeky blue. Yeah. But no, this really is a game that's better with multiple people. I wish I had people here with me. I will say though, that because this is the Switch version, I think this is the best way to play just because, one, you're able to use Joy-Cons. Now, as much as people hate the Joy-Cons, they are good when it comes to pick up and play multiplayer experiences. If I go somewhere with it and I have 2 on hand, that's immediately 2 players that can just jump into the fray. 2 more on hand, and that's enough to fill the board. But then also, if I take the Switch and I put it in tabletop mode, that simulates the way this game was played originally. This was a tabletop game. There were instances though, like a big mode, where you would see the game on a big TV screen and you would have like the control decks and towers where you used each of the controls. Of course, they were shaped like Pac-Man, they had the different colors, and you would see like the lines line up with the controllers. Those were always the best way to play. As a matter of fact, growing up over where I live, I can mention this, I believe. Unfortunately, the place is no more, but in Schaumburg, Illinois, for a time, there was a place known as Level 257. This was an attempt by Bandai Namco to make a entertainment form of, I don't know what you call it, a chain, a complex, but it was an attempt to delve into a whole different business venture altogether with fine dining and entertainment. So for them, when it first released, the biggest focus was on the food. Was the food anything special? I wasn't crazy about it personally. Honestly, I think it was pretty basic compared to other places. Overpriced in some aspects. My favorite thing about the place though with the food was these donuts that were shaped like power pellets. They had like the white powder. They'd be loaded with Pop Rocks. We're gonna quarter up as I play this. And then they have like chocolate loaded in the middle. Those were great. I wish someone will try to like remake it later on, but I feel like something like that is lost of time as it stands. The other big thing though with 257 was its arcade and its bowling alley. It had several lanes on each side of the place for bowling. When it first started up, it was basic, but later on they would add on that it would have like special lighting effects. So like when you roll the ball, it would have a trail. That was cool. They even had one that looked like it was like Pac-Man inspired. And then they had the arcade. Now, honestly, the best part for me was the arcade because they would have some cabinets that were incredibly hard to come by, even in the Chicago area. The one that caught my attention the most was Baby Pac-Man, which, for those that don't know it, it was another Midway attempt at making a Pac-Man game, but it was inspired by their Bally branch. Back then they were known collaboratively as Bally Midway. And so the game would feature both Pac-Man in the game form up above, but then when you go through the maze tunnel, it would switch over to pinball. So down low, you would actually play pinball down below, in order to rack up things for the top screen, such as power pellets. The game is notoriously difficult, and the reason there's not a whole lot of them is because being able to maintain it is not easy. Not the game aspect, but because of the pinball aspect. So, if you don't see it around very often, that's why. There's not a whole lot of them in the world, and it was the pinball mechanisms that kept people from buying them. Was it the best game? I don't think so, personally. It's the difficulty that makes it not very fun. And because of the pinball elements, it's not something that can be easily emulated. You could try, maybe like if you make your own pinball cabinets, but you'd have to have a way to play physically the Pac-Man game up above and then switch down low to the pinball mechanisms. The original game had a joystick and then 2 buttons on the sides. It was different. It was very different. But then even some games in a decent quality that were even Namco inspired, such as Xevious, for example, Super Pac-Man. The list goes on. Dragon's Lair was one they had there. Space Invaders. They just had all these games that, sure, there are places here in Illinois, such as the Galloping Ghost Arcade, that you can find these games, but some have shown like a bit of aging, some have shown like deterioration, such as Burn-In. This is nothing against Galloping Ghost. I feel like they have a great arcade. Especially, they're one of the only few I know that actually has the Sega Sonic arcade cabinet. That was a blast play in person, by the way. But I do miss the place. Unfortunately, 257, later renamed to Pac-Man Entertainment, is no longer a corporate entity. Part of that was because of COVID-19, but if I'm being honest, even being there in person, I never really saw a whole lot of people go to the place. Even the times I would go there. Just not a lot of people were visiting it. But now it is under a different name. I think it's called the Entertainium? Something like that. But there is still a place in its shell. And I do hope it does still do well, because with all the renovations going on with the Woodfield Mall, I do think that there is still plenty of publicity to go there, different reasons to visit. Again, shopping malls may never be the same as they were way back when, but there's still a place and time for them. And we all need some good entertainment now and then. Especially where I live, there's almost nothing. You have to take that hour drive just to get to where it is. But alright, so that was Pac-Man Battle Royale. Again, I can't do this game much justice because there's only one of me. But if you ever play this in person, it's an absolute blast. We got 8 tokens. Did we get anything bonus? Missions. Okay, Pac-Man Battle Royale. Main music. Pac-Man Battle Royale. Ooh, oh, that's a nice flag. Pac-Man Battle Royale. Comics C. Ooh. Cool. I'm hoping we get an Eric character eventually, because I did like Professor Pac-Man. Pac-Man! Pac-Man! But alright, that was Pac-Man Battle Royale. And that's the last arcade game of the bunch here in the Pac-Man Museum Plus. I know, I can shut a tier 2 that's almost near the end here. That said, we only have one last game to check out here on the channel, and that is Pac-Man 256.